This is the Pro Wrestling Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chalbelo Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The queen, yeah. The cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The American Dream! Dusty Rhodes! Too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo! Look at this. He's I don't believe it.
What is going on there, Reflection Knights? What is going on there to the Big Vito Whites? What is going on there to the Hami Knights? What is going on there to the Magnificent 7, the Elite 8, the Naughty 9, the Terrific 10, the Essential 11, the Tubular 12? What is going on to the Hustleites on the YouTubes? If A-Track is quick enough to load these. You know, he's a slow motherfucker. I keep saying that. He's a slow goddamn motherfucker. But you know what? Neither here nor there. He's reacting to shows from the 80s to 90s, and then he has to catch up with the Mandalorian and all the other stuff that, you know, we asked the king of the reactions to react. So patience, Reflection Nice, patience. The video will be up, so this way you can see the oh so glorious one and also the sexy time Dr. Freakenstein himself. But neither here nor there. Well, welcome to the PWR podcast here at the PWR Networks at Podbean.com. I am your host with the most. I am the magnanimous one. I am the studious one. I am the stupendous one. But again, most importantly, I am the glorious one. The only objective man in the IWC, YWC, PWC punditry. The only objective man in this political spectrum. Your friend of mine, the Professor Chabela Cruz. And I'm not here alone. Oh, no. I am here with the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, the man who cried. He's in my DMs. He cried when I told him that Greta Thunberg, his favorite, his little crush, got arrested in Germany, protesting coal, protesting, you know, nuclear energy, protesting, you know, the spoils of war, the spoils of this earth. She wants you to go natural. She wants TW to go natural. She wants TW to stop with the gas stoves. She wants TW to go with electric. I really don't get the stove issue, but that's neither here nor there because I think y'all kind of smoking the kush if you talk about gas and electric stoves, but neither here nor there. But he is your friend of mine, Mr. Dum Dum Doing Idiot Zone. Tommy Wonder, how are you doing, my friend?
Freezing, like I just told you. All right, let's just get down to this stove thing right away. So, first and foremost.
Oh, you got issues.
So you know what? We've never talked about this, but you mentioned something. I did something today that I haven't done in probably multiple years, but definitely at least a year. Mm-hmm. Guess what I did?
I have no idea, but
is it something? To our show that we did last week.
Oh my goodness! And you got a lot of catching up to do.
And I caught Ray messed up, but Ray is the guy. He's the James Brown of podcasting, the hardest working man in podcasting.
You mean the production of the intro? Yeah, I saw it kind of like did a loop, but it's okay.
Twice, I think almost 3 points, but it was like choose your own adventure. I had to piece it all together, and I was like, it's like watching this boring ass promo for fucking the third time. But anyways, also when we were talking about world titles, it dawned on me. I didn't finish the whole episode, but. So, we're talking about world titles. ECW's Eastern Championship changes to Extreme. Makes it easier to call it a world championship, by the way, when you're not calling yourself Eastern Championship Wrestling. And then we talked about me, who was a prude when acknowledging world titles, and it just dawned on me when I said, when World Class and AWA merged and became the USWA, I said, that was a world title. What does USWA stand for? United States Wrestling Alliance or Association. That should disqualify it from being a world title on its own for being called that. But
not necessarily.
Based in the U.S.
Not necessarily, because if you remember, what was it called gimmick-wise? It was called the Unified Heavyweight Championship. So it had more credence. Again, I get what you're saying because, you know, it only was defended in Texas and in Memphis, and it's not a world title. I get that. By the way, PW Hustleites, the Reflectionites, we're doing again the Reflection Extra, but we're doing it earlier than we did last week. So, you know, if you did not hear the show last week, we did a PWR Extra. Now we're doing the PWR Extra. Again, this is what the show is all about. But anyway, again, for me, it's called the Unified title. For me, Jerry Lawler made it feel bigger because he said, you know, he beat the people. He beat the AWA champion. He beat the world class champion. That's why he was the CWA heavyweight champion. He was
his sorry ass Memphis title, right?
So, you know, he had 3 titles merged into one. So he had a legit world heavyweight title. Again, I understand what you're talking about. He didn't go to NWA to defend it. He didn't go to WWF to defend it, but he didn't talk about it a lot. So did he go to Japan? Did he go to Mexico? I don't know.
Now let's get back to the stove. All right, this is another thing. You mentioned on the show last week. You said, you know how we come at with facts, even though, like you said, you claimed I said it, but I believe you agree with me. You said, you know how the liberal media spins stuff, right? So here's where we're at with the stove deal. So first of all, I'm going to take you back a little bit to green energy, right? Mm-hmm. Your favorite vice president of all time, who's still bitching saying he got jobbed out because of pregnant chads, even though it's unconstitutional, un-American to claim elections were stolen, even though liberals been doing it every time they lose. Al Gore was worth a couple $100,000 when he left office. He's not worth billions. Do you know why he's worth billions, Professor? Because he put all his money into green energy and then told everyone there'd be no more polar bears in 20 years. By the way, it's been 20 years. There's more polar bears than ever. So if you follow the money, you'll see why people are telling you, do this, don't do that. Al Gore's a billionaire now because of green energy. They'll tell you it's because he sold that TV.
The Clintons are billionaires too, you could say. You know, they're multimillionaires.
Who?
The Clintons.
Right.
They went in with nothing and then became multimillionaires too.
The stove is the latest thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to believe that the government cares about us and that the reason they're attacking the stove is because it's unhealthy and it could trigger asthma, and then they got busted that they didn't even have asthma things in the damn study. Then they say, oh, it's 42% more higher chance of a heart something episode happening in the home, right? So now
I didn't get those news reports. I got a news report differently.
I'm telling you, this is what they're saying. But you know what?
No, I heard differently. I heard that having gas stoves is racist. That's what I heard.
Oh, for sure. It's sure. Even though in the hood, where it's predominantly whatever, people use it to heat their fucking house. You ain't heating your house with an electric stove. I'll tell you that right now, right?
Well, I got a gas stove, and when I'm cold, I turn that sucker on.
Go into a poor neighborhood, and I guarantee you all 4 burners and the oven are on heating that ham house. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with that shit. So anyhow, right before these studies started coming out, CNN, you know, the most fucking direct down the middle news organization there is,
the Bill Alfonso.
They made fun and said it was a Republican pounce because one guy suggested we should get rid of stoves. It's a joke. You're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. Now, a week later, they're doing shows on why an electric stove is better for you and a gas stove is not. And what does an electric stove do? It ties to the green new energy deal. It ties to green energy in general. It gets rid of gas from a home, blah, 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 blah. But here's the bigger problem. Mm-hmm. When everyone switches to electric, do you know what's going to happen, Professor? We're going to find out there's not enough electricity to not use gas. It's already happening overseas. But the bottom line is, I have an electric stove. I promise you, every day of my life, I wish it was gas every single time. And when I found out there's a conservative guy. I've seen him a couple times. Something Rubin. He's gay and he's Republican, so he already gets healed on for being that. But he said when him and his husband first bought their house in Florida, there was no gas, so they had electric. They said it took 2 weeks to rip that thing out of there, and they couldn't figure out how to get gas, so they had propane dug up and put in their backyard like they do like in rural up in Michigan. I don't know if they do it in upstate New York, but in Michigan, the further north you go, you got to have propane tanks that they got to come refill every month or every 3 months, whatever.
Yeah, the suburbs or in the boonies. Yeah, in the boonies.
Boonies. And then water softeners because they have well water and they got to put that shit in there so you don't feel like you're taking a shower in dirty, muddy ass water, which still feels that way, by the way. But anyway, that's where the stove thing came in. So after saying that the Republicans were making it up, now they're going full court press with not letting them build new houses with a gas stove.
And maybe
by the way, electric heat sucks worse than the gas stove not being gas. Those little things around your house, the little vents around your house. I almost caught my Steve Young jersey on fire when I was a kid.
They suck. But as me being the independent down the middle, I could give two shits of, when you're condensing the ideologies, reflectionize, this is just me as an independent looking back, I just laugh. This is entertaining. More entertaining than maybe WWE, more entertaining than AEW. Republicans and Democrats cease to surprise the professor in the idiocies that y'all do. But anyway, neither here nor there. So let's get into this episodic episode. This is officially. Now, Ray, again, I'm going to correct you. This is episode 163. He put 161 again because last week's episodic was 162. I went backtrack, TW. So, Ray did two things wrong. He did the production wrong and he got the number wrong. But that's neither here nor there. Again, we love Big Ray Hernandez, the producer extraordinaire. See, I gave you a shout out, Ray. Again, Next Level Wrestling Podcast 2 with him and the vet, who I heard listens to our show too, TW. The vet is a reflection that he listens to the PWR podcast religiously. Yes. So we went from 12, we got 13 maybe. So at least the vet is lucky number 13. Yeah, he's lucky number 13. But
thirsty 13 is we gotta have alliteration.
I want to call him lucky. Don't call him thirsty yet. He's got thirsty.
A lot of them are thirsty.
I'm just saying, I don't want the vet to be like, what?
Are you ready for this?
What is it?
Travis is listening to us again.
All right.
For putting over his Twitter handle. So we might be up to 14. Travis is definitely thirsty.
Travis, Pastor Travis, do me a favor. Give us a blessing every time we do a show, okay? Just do that.
I'm going to stop cussing. I listened to that show back. I cussed a ton. But we didn't elaborate on the fact that when I said I told you it just happened, we never said I was knocked out because I didn't plan on a nap. I just fell asleep.
Pastor Travis, he will do his penance. But again, bless the PWR podcast, bless the Reflectionites, bless the Magnificent Seven and all that stuff. So anyway, this is episode 163. And it would be apropos because, again, a couple of weeks ago, we lost somebody in the professional wrestling world. And that was a TNA original, Impact original, one of the most boisterous color analysts in wrestling history. So I want to start there first, TW. Don West. So we are officially dedicating this episodic episode to the memory of Don West and TW before anything, because again, we know the history of Don West, where he came from originally. He was on the Shop at Home Network, so the Home Shopping Network. I forget what it was, but he was selling memorabilia. He was selling collectible cards, baseball cards, basketball cards. He was a sports aficionado, if you will. But his energy, his presence on the Shop at Home Network, you know what it did, TW? It got ratings up, and it got people to spend a lot of money for the Mark McGuire rookie card. I found it funny. There was a plethora of Mark McGuire rookie cards. Are they worth any money right now? Just like you have your, TW, Wrestling Hall of Fame behind you. Is it worth a lot of money if everybody has it? Or do you feel you got to have at least that one thing that a lot of people have?
It's, first of all, you can think everybody has it because he sold 12 of them. The reality is less is more. So for example, I'm going to do it for you right now. See this Johnny Gargano figure? Mm-hmm. I bought it, even though I already had it, because I was hoping to get the chase. I didn't get the chase, right? Mm-hmm. So now I got two of these. One of them's in the package. I'm going to open it right now.
Oh, Lord. Not this.
everyone's in the package is just went up 10%.
Thank God. I have to wait, hold on. I have to thank Pastor Travis. The box opened with no problem, no noise. Thank you, Pastor Travis. All praises to you.
The way, and I opened this one so I can put him with Indy Hartwell, who's also in her way gear, and my good man Austin Theory in his gear. Okay. So now everyone that has this in the package, if they made 500 of them, there's only 499 still in package. So with the baseball cards, I'm sure the Mark McGwire is still worth money, but there's a saying in the collecting business. It could be worth on paper all they want to say it is. It's only as worth as much as somebody will pay for it. So Mark McGwire rookie card, I would say it probably cooled off from the days of Don West hawking it. But at the end of the day, the reason a Honus Wagner is worth so much, because really nobody knows who he is other than that card, is because there's fucking 3 of them. If there was 3,000 of them, it could be 150 years old. Nobody would care because there was 3,000 of them. But when it's 100 years old and there's only 3 in existence, it might be more than that. I'm just saying that off the top of my head.
Or 3 in pristine condition. So it'd be worth a lot
even
more
better then, So
I get you. But anyway, TW. I'm just giving the logistics of his history and where he was. And then, of course, obviously, Jeff Jarrett heard his boisterous antics, if you will, at the Shop at Home Network and thought it would be perfect to bring him on the pay-per-view circuit when TNA was up and coming in 2002. So, TW, let's talk about Don West, Mike Tenay, Jeremy Borash, before we even talk about the matches. I just wanted, because again, this is like about Don West, and we gave you a little bit of the backstory of Don West's, professional career. And of course, he was the color guy, if you will, from 2002 to 2008, early 2009, before Taz came in and then replaced Don West. So with this pay-per-view that you saw, which was, again, Reflection Nights, TNA Lockdown 2008, April 13th, 2008, from Lowell, Massachusetts. So I got that logistic out of the way. So TW, with this, of course, the 3-hour pay-per-view, you're already mad at the professor. That's part A. So I'm sorry about that. But hopefully, with the little things you saw on this pay-per-view, or that you remember.
Dick. What?
Huh? I didn't say little dick. I said with the little things you saw, because sometimes you always
little dick you saw. You said it again.
No, I did not. Again, I said with the little things you saw on the pay-per-view, because you always fall asleep. You say you doze off a little bit. But whatever you call with Don West, I just want to talk about Don West for a second. The energy that he brings to a match. I don't want to say the passion, because again, is it passion or is it just doing what his job is? To be that boisterous, to be that energetic. What say you, TW, about the color stylings of Don West?
I'm gonna say he's good at his job. That said, if he ain't a wrestling fan, then he duped the hell out of everybody, because he comes off. That's what I was telling you before we started recording. Jeff Jarrett talked about him on his podcast the day after he found out, right? In the middle of working everybody, acting like he's mad about the Karen Angle rap. He was talking about Don West, and he choked up a little bit, and I guess they're going to do a separate podcast just for Don West. But he said he picked Don West, whoever picked him, because he sounded like a wrestling fan. He didn't sound like a polished, commentator, like a Bob Caudle or whatever. That's funny enough. What I don't like about Mike Tenay is he comes across as like Joe Buck, like he could give a shit. As long as you pay him, he'll talk about whatever you're talking about. But I would assume, especially I thought about this watching it, I would assume at some point either Mike Tenay could only get jobs in wrestling, or at some point he's a wrestling fan and he wants to work in wrestling, because he's with AEW, right? Tenay, or was he?
No, he's freelance. He probably does vlogs and blogs and stuff like that now.
But he was AEW, he was WCW, he was TNA. He probably would do something else if someone hired him. But he always came across to me as someone who was not a wrestling fan. And John did get a move wrong. He said that Curry Man did a moonsault off the top of the cage. He did a somersault. And Tenay, of all people, corrected him, the guy who usually gets the moves wrong. But Don West was contagious. Like, you couldn't help but get into whatever he was talking about, whether it's the McGuire card he's selling on the damn, if you happen to be watching QVC or whatever, but you couldn't help but catch, like, he made you stop and listen. And he got done dirty at the end there, you know, by whoever, I don't know, but someone thought he was better suited in their little fan shop, whatever, their WWE shop knockoff. But Jeff Jarrett said one cool thing, man. Like, it's nobody wants to be the one to say it, you know, especially that soon. But he said, personally, he thanks God that Don West passed away because he's not suffering no more. So that showed me up. That hits home because I've seen people suffer, man, and I've had guilt when they passed away, thinking to myself, "Ooh, why do I feel relief?" You know, but it is because you're not watching them suffer anymore. Like you're gonna move on. You don't want
to be selfish that they're still on this earth, but in pain, in a lot of pain. So you feel relief that the pain is gone.
And the last time he saw him, it was rough on him, and like he's never gonna forget that last time, which is a lot of reasons why people don't go to funerals. They don't want the last image, the person that they love, is that, you know, how they look in the box. And but he said that, and I could resonate with that. But by all accounts, I've never really talked to Demore about him or Kavanaugh, whatever. But by all accounts, that dude was loved by everybody and anybody that came across him. Like, again, one of those guys where there's nobody, you're not gonna find anybody have a bad thing to say about him. And if you do, it says more about them than it does about Don West. And
it's funny that you say that he comes off like a wrestling fan. So it's like the everyday fan, because his commentary, Reflection Nights, is very infectious. Like he says, you know, he might say, like you said, TW, he might say a move that doesn't make sense or is totally wrong. But actually, you'll forgive him for doing that because he's boisterous, he's energetic, and he's watching the match like a fan. Like, he probably would say, "Oh my God," like Joey Styles, and he's not saying it like a catchphrase. He's actually saying it like a fan, like he saw
like he's blown away by
the match. He's blown away by the athleticism. He's blown away by you know, the two, if it's a tag team match or a singles match or whatever the case may be. You know, like you said, it was fucked up the way they did him dirty. But Taz was coming into TNA, so you got to understand, you got to replace Don West with a proven commodity. So it is what it is in the cutthroat business of professional wrestling. And he got, you know, again, like you said, he got dicked around by that. So it is what it is. But like you said, he was loved by his, compadres. He was loved by his co-workers. He was loved by the wrestlers. I have never, Reflection Night, and you have it, T and Couponer, another Reflection Night. If you've heard anything, people talking bad about Don West, please let me know, because I've never heard. TW has never heard of anything. And again, like you said, Scott D'Amore, a couple of days ago, TW, they just did TNA or Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill pay-per-view. They did a 10-bell salute for Don West, and he hasn't been on TV in a couple of years. He hasn't been on full-time TV since, like I said, 2009, and we're talking 13 years.
And Scott wrote a nice thing on Twitter or whatever it was on, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Like, that was his boy, man. So, and like you said, there's people watching that don't know who the hell they're talking about because they haven't seen, Impact back then versus now. But yeah, I don't want. Hey, Couponer, if you find any negative shit, I don't want to hear it. You tell Professor. I don't want to hear it.
But he'll tweet the Professor. That's all right. T and Couponer, that's your. You don't have to do it. I already know the answer. TW really already knows the answer. We're just saying it because, it just doesn't exist. It's like the electric stove, gas stove conundrum right now. It doesn't exist. We're just making this up as we go along. But neither here nor there.
Yeah,
so
doesn't exist, damn you.
Again, the passion of TW about this stove thing is really off the charts. Reflection.
It's stupid. Anyway. It's not passion. It's stupid. And the fact that, that's what I forgot to say. So we're supposed to believe all of a sudden they care about us having a heart attack in our kitchen or asthma tripping. Yet we can still go to the corner store and buy cigarettes. Oh, by the way, we can buy weed now too, and alcohol anytime we want.
Oh, okay.
But they care about us.
I get you. I'm not here to dispute it. I'm not here to debate about it. I'm actually on your side. I'll throw the picket fence. I'll do a protest with you about this. But anyway, let's get back to this episodic episode. TNA Impact Wrestling Lockdown 2008, Lowell, Massachusetts, the Songus Arena. Attendance for this TW was 5,500, a very decent crowd, if you will. But again, I want to say, again, before we even talk about a couple of things in this pay-per-view, again, this is more about Don West, Reflection Night. So, of course, we banter back and forth. And, of course, we'll talk some matches that we liked or disliked or kind of like had questions. But, again, TNA Lockdown, TW, is a pay-per-view dedicated to the steel case. In particular, the 6 sides of steel. Every match was in a steel cage, so it's the ultimate gimmick match. Like WWE did Hell in a Cell, but they only do like 1 or 2 Hell in a Cell matches. So what say you about the concept, TW? Because this is, to me, the peak of TNA wrestling, the peak of Impact Wrestling, if you will. Even before they try to get Hogan and Bishop and all that stuff, I think right now,
before Hogan.
Yeah, this is 2008. Oh. He didn't get into Impact Wrestling until 2010. So to me, this time period right now is the peak of TNA wrestling. So do you agree with that assessment? Do you disagree, or you have a different take?
So I thought about it today, and I thought, I didn't. So 2010 is probably when I soured on TNA. Now that you said that, because right off the rip, they tried going head-to-head on Monday night. That's the stuff I don't like. It's what I dislike about AEW, which, God bless them, they do it less and less now. So they finally got the memo. Look, just do your own shit. Stop throwing stones, right? Just put on a better show. And there's going to be people that think you have and people that think you haven't. But when I'm watching this, 2 things I thought. One, wow. I knew everybody. There's barely... I don't think there was anybody on this show, maybe a couple women, where I didn't know who they were. So clearly I had my finger on the pulse of Impact Wrestling, even if I didn't watch it.
Okay.
But also, many of these guys are still around, either wrestling still or personalities in wrestling. It's good to see a lot of them went on to graduate, if you will. No disrespect to Impact, but there wasn't a guy in that Impact show who wasn't dying to make it to New York, if you know what I mean. And they did. Some of them made it to AEW before they got any kind of break. One of such guys being...
Hold your thought, because I want to actually retort back. Because I'll be honest with you, because I'm the most objective man in the IWC, I was rooting for TNA Impact Wrestling at this point in time. I can get where you're going with. I'll have the same thoughts as you after 2010 when Hogan and Bischoff came in. But at this time period, for me, I just want to say this. I was rooting for them. I'm not saying to overtake WWE. I understand what you're talking about. But I was rooting for them for being the alternative. I was rooting for them because being at the Songas Arena, having like 5,000 fans or paid or whatever the case may be, I'm like, all right. Another organization is growing. Another organization is coming up in the United States. So I was rooting for them. I just wanted to say that. So go ahead, TW. I didn't want to lose your train.
Well, I was rooting for them because of Team Canada. Those were all my dudes that I came up with or met in BCW when I was, dialing it down. So I was always rooting for them. And so the thing I thought was, wow, I must have paid. Never was a fan of that ring. Still ain't after this show. It's so weird, that ring. And then the fact that it's 6 sides, it's not even like UFC where it was an octagon. At least make the shit an octagon, which would have made it even harder for guys like Sting and Hogan who are used to, that one way, because it would have been longer doing octagons. But anyway, the second thing I thought was this particular show itself, like, it's overkill is what I thought before watching it. It's too many matches. It's too many cage matches. It makes the cage part, like, guys wrestle and they don't have heat. Why are they in a cage?
I get where you're going with this because I think no. Let me just say this. I think I know where you're going with this because this is the same problem with AEW. When you look at this card, you got to get everybody on the card, and sometimes some of these people on the card don't deserve to have pay-per-view time. So, you focus on Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. You focus on the War Games match. Some of this is just overkill, like you said. So I just wanted to agree with you on that. It's just too many people you're putting on.
But I changed my mind after watching it because they did two things. Well, they did one thing. I just thought, you know what? I thought about it on my own. So the first thing they did was they at least made the rules for every match different, right? So, like Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe is basically MMA fight that you can still do wrestling moves. So that was a hard sell for me. No offense to Hard to Kill or puns or anything like that, but it was a hard sell because they're doing this thing like they did MMA camps, yet they're still running off the ropes. So that kind of whatever, but they made it work. So forget about it. And by the way, unsung hero of this entire pay-per-view, and I'm not a big fan of his, and I'm going to butcher his damn name, Frank Trigg. I got it. Frank Trigg, that dude added legitimacy to this. Every single time they talked to him, he did commentary, they talked to him, he analyzed it like it was a shoot UFC fight, and I really appreciated that. And he even did the kayfabe side where he flat out wasn't picking one guy. I'm not going to spoil the finish. He flat out didn't pick one guy because he just thought it's impossible, but it's probable. So there's that. But the second thing was, remember when we were kids and we would rent like WWE's most unusual matches? Yeah, they would be all different. One would be a ladder match. One would be lumberjack match, whatever. I finally realized as I'm watching this is no different than if we watched Best of Steel Cage matches. None of us would have a problem sitting down and watching, Warrior Rude, Brett Owen, Hogan Bundy. We would watch all three of those in a row and not think twice about the fact that we just watched three different Steel. Tully Blanchard.
But there's a difference.
No.
There is a difference. Those Best of Steel Cage that you're talking about and the names you put, those were main events. All of them were main events.
No, for sure. But I'm saying my problem was every match being a cage match. We could watch. They all had potential to steal the show. A couple of them did, I think. The worst of them all, to me, was that tag team match because the fact that you got eliminated by getting handcuffed. I'm sorry. That's the second worst. The fact that you got handcuffed to the cage, but you're still there. I'm stunned nobody got hurt because you got so many guys in there. There's really nowhere to go for the two guys that are last. But
that's the advantage of the 6 sides to spread it out.
Was good.
Okay.
And the finish, I really liked the way EY did what he did. Very, very cool. They pulled it off. When I say it was dumb, I mean the rules. But the dumbest rule is the girls, where they had to climb into the cage to have a one-on-one match. And it's kind of like, what? Why don't you just have a... No, because no one's going to climb over the top. I think they did that just to be different, and there's probably women who had no chance in hell I'm climbing that cage, right? Like just out of fear or whatever. But the match itself wasn't horrible, but it was predictably quick because how long are you going to be fighting each other before once one person got in the cage, there's an odd person. So obviously you should be able to, the odd person who doesn't have anyone beating on him should be the next one climbing up in there. And the same thing with that tag match. Once one guy got handcuffed, which it started off with EY not even being out there, so Kaz he's just by himself.
There's a storyline purpose. So again, I'll give you the logistics on that for a second, but I get where you're going with the thing that TNA, especially at this time, and again, like I said, Reflectionites, I think this is where they peaked. They couldn't go any higher after this, even though the Dixie Carter tried as she best, TW. Again, adding Hulk Hogan, adding Ric Flair, adding Eric Bischoff, and trying to compete with WWE instead of being the alternative to WWE, which they were already there. They were already the alternative to WWE. Again, delusions of grandeur, TW. You wanted to be mainstream. I get where she wanted to go. But right now, at 2008, you're seeing a pay-per-view, again, an all steel cage, 6 sides of steel cage pay-per-view. Yes, there were some hokey rules, Reflectionites, and I agree with TW on that. But it was trying to be different. It's not trying to, go to the well of WWE with rules. It's not trying to go to the well of WCW with the rules. It was trying to be, I guess cutting edge, unique, cutting edge. This is, WWE is all pomp and circumstance. We're the grits. We're the gritty ones that are going to try and be out the box and see if we pass or fail. And let's talk about at least one of the matches. And of course, the one tradition of TNA Impact Wrestling since the inception of pay-per-views or big events, TW, is always an X Division title match. And with this, they started off with the 6-man escape match for the X Division Championship, and Macho Lethal, Jay Lethal, was the champion. He was defending against Xavier Woods. He was defending against Curryman, aka Christopher Daniels. He was defending against Johnny Devine, Shark Boy, and Sanjay Dutt. So one of the big misnomers of the X Division, especially during these peak years, TW, was that the X Division guys, they could give you 5-star matches in the ring, right, TW? That's not the problem. They could be the ones that are the heaters. That's not the problem. The problem was they had no charisma. They had no character. You know, you couldn't really get invested in them. And so, you know, Jeff Jarrett, you got to give him A for effort, TW, that he tried to give Jay Lethal, you know, he said, Jay Lethal, who do you know, I know you do impressions. You love doing the Macho Man Randy Savage, and he was Macho Lethal. So
Also love doing the Macho Man.
Right.
Being done.
Which what?
Being done by the Macho Man. Catch it.
Yeah. He did that. So, you know, neither here nor there.
You caught for the Macho Man.
Jesus Christ, TW. A little decorum here. Anyway, but I'm trying to say that he was trying to inject on the cruiserweights, if you will, TW, to give him a little character, give him a little pomp and circumstance. And of course, again, during these years, Vince Russo has his. No, let me just say this first. Vince Russo is still around in some certain circumstance. I don't know if he's head writer or he's part of the TNA writing committee, but you have to think that Vince Russo injected some of this character and charisma on some of these X Division guys. Jay Lethal with the Macho Man character. You got Sanjay Dutt as the player from the Himalayas. You got Consequences Creed. You know, of course, Xavier Woods was starting out, you could say. He was trying to find his character. And of course, Christopher Daniels took it. Untapped potential, like you would say, like we would always say. Christopher Daniels took his character from New Japan Pro Wrestling and brought it to America, so it was kind of an easy no-brainer. So and of course, Shark Boy was taking from Stone Cold Steve Austin, and actually Stone Cold liked Stone Cold Shark Boy. So what say you, TW, about the character injection, if you will, to try to give, you know, these guys, you know, so you can be more invested in these guys with the characterization.
You said they can all perform. There was no problem with it. Sanjay, he looks better now than he did then. Sanjay's one of them guys where if I was one of the boys in the back, I'd have pulled him aside and said, "Hey, Sanjay, let's go get a fucking razor blade and let's just shave that little fucking 3 pairs of hairs you got on the top of your head off." He was always going bald and always had it wet, sticking to the side. It just looked terrible. But he looks better now. But he looks like he's still in the same shape now as he was back then. I always thought Jay Lethal stood out. It sucks that your moment is mimicking a wrestler, but I also love when Sandow did it. I liked it when Bo and Kurt Axel did it. I like that kind of stuff. I liked it better, Charlie Haas, when they did a different guy every week, where they just weren't looking like they were stealing the gimmick of a guy from the past. Curryman is flat out doing a Shawn Michaels dance. I don't know how I just never noticed it before. Everything he does, he's doing this stuff like Shawn does before he does the pose, but he does it and he adds that little one step to it. But the whole time, he's basically...
wait a minute. He's hot and he's spicy and he tastes great.
But he's also stealing Shawn Michaels' little dance and making it different. But anyways, at the end of the day, Consequences Creed, I could have sworn he wore the red, white, and blue shit in TNA, but it might have been that's what he wore in the Indies before he got there. I just remember him wearing that red, white, and blue. But what they did to me in this match that I thought was awesome was Sanjay was basically only there to help Jay retain. Somehow they were baby faces. I don't know how that works, but I liked it.
Well, storyline wise, Sanjay and Jay were like best buds, but there was something that was gonna divide them, and that was the girl. I forgot her name, but now
SoCal Val.
SoCal Val was Jay Lethal's girlfriend, but of course Sanjay Dutt is the player from the Himalaya. So this was a developing storyline. TW, I wanted to give you that credence here. He wanted some ass. He wanted SoCal Val's ass. So I'm just giving you the credence for the storyline. Go ahead.
That aside, he's in there. So clearly he's not going to try to take out
Jay Lethal.
But he got eliminated early, so Jay had to fend for himself, if you will. But he never left, and then he comes back into play at the end in a much more babyface way. And that made more sense to me, that they were baby faces at the end. Didn't particularly like the finish because I don't think it made Lethal look strong, but it also is a good reason to explain how, like, the champion, if I was booking wrestling and champions were in these matches, like the Elimination Chamber or that type of match where anybody, especially the ones where all one person has is pinned, like a fatal 4-way, the champion should lose every fucking time. I would only use those matches to get a belt off of somebody. Like, for example, Goldberg's undefeated. Have him lose his belt that way, because then he's technically defeated because he lost the match, but he didn't lose the match. Someone else
did. He didn't get pinned or anything. He wasn't involved in the fall.
Right? It's in a specials match. So you keep him undefeated. You can do the streak part 2, and they won't let you come for the belt again until you work your way back up, whatever the case may be. But I just don't like, I feel like in wrestling, the guy that goes in with the title leaves with it more often than he doesn't, right? Unless it's Brock. Brock's a champion. He's in there. Braun they did it with, and he ended up losing to Brock. Where you have a guy just dominate, fine, then he dominates. But when you're the guy who's not dominating and you cheap out of it, the finish, even though Sanjay did it babyface style, it's more of a heel finish. Other than what Johnny Devine did in the first place, Johnny Devine tied him to the rope, so that was the heel finish. And Sanjay's like, no, and then, I've never liked the winning the cage. I like that Hogan, and I bet you he had the same thought I had. I'm not fucking opening the door and leaving to win. That looks like a coward's way out. He climbed the cage. That's what I like, is when the guy climbs, because you hit him with your boot to the face and the leg drop, and you go, watch this, motherfucker. I'm going to take 10 minutes to climb over the top of this cage and win. Like, it's a dominant win, right? But when you just run out the door, it's so chicken beep that it just, I don't feel like you won. You know what I mean? Like, you ran. You won by running. But I get you. And I like that they eliminated Sanjay early, and everyone that got pinned got a pin, with the exception of, like, Jay Lethal escaped. He didn't get pinned, and he didn't pin nobody. And obviously Sanjay didn't get a pin because he got pinned first. But everyone got a win, everyone got a loss, other than those two.
Right. So, it is what it is. Again, they're out the box, they're cutting edge with certain rules. We're not going to go to the whole pay-per-view Reflection Nights. We're going to just, go into certain things that we liked or disliked. So I'm going to go into the thing that TW disliked. And that was I believe, the Queen of the Cage match to determine the number 1 contender for the TNA Women's Knockout Championship. You got Angelina Love, you got Christy Hemme, you got Jacqueline, you got Raka Khan, you got Salinas, you got Tracy Brooks, Velvet Sky, and Roxy Laveau, TW. Like you said, they started from the outside going in. It is redundant. You have a cage. This is what you do. You put all these girls in. It's supposed to be cage tea. It's supposed to be softcore porn. You're supposed to have women.
They should have been the handcuff one.
Well, you could have done handcuffs with women, but then again, you would have, it would be sexist, misogynistic, or whatever the case may be. So again, you can actually do this in 2008. You can't do it in 2020. TW. So again, you hated it for the rules and you hated it for the concept. And again, TNA was starting to have the women valued more inside the ring instead of being the valets. But of course, they still did that valet stuff. Don't get me wrong, Reflection Nights. But they wanted to show that their women can look beautiful and still kick ass at the same time. But some of these women, it's like, I don't want to be in a cage. I feel like it's gonna really hurt me. What say you, TW? I guess that was the vibe I got when I was watching TNA wrestling. When they could do a one-on-one match without a cage, without any props, you don't have to add the chairs, you don't have to add kendo sticks, if you will, Reflection Nights. They could, they could do a good match. Don't get me wrong, TW. But when you add these props, the men could adapt. Again, it's not sexist, it's realist. The women are. Don't worry, I'm gonna get us the sexist part. Don't worry. Okay, but again, they were starting. The revolution was starting, TW. So I'm just trying to give credence to it. Again, right now, the women today in 2020 trust whatever organization, they can handle a steel cage. They could do it better than what they did, 13, 14, 15 years ago. That's what I wanted to say. Go ahead, TW. Go ahead, be your sexist ways. All right. So listen, I've been trying to think of how I was going to word this. I promise everyone listen that's going to get offended by this. Yes, it's going to come off as WWE apologist, but it's not what I'm trying to do here. A lot of people try to say Impact
the what do they call them girls? Knockouts.
Knockouts.
The knockout divisions is what revolutionized women's wrestling. I've never agreed with that. They might have had more women on their roster, but they didn't all fucking wrestle like Trish and Lita and Chyna and Tara, whatever the hell her name was in WWE.
But to be fair, I'm just gonna say this. To be fair, they gave them more of a platform to hone their crafts in the ring.
Fine. They gave them the platform, but they're trying to give credit to those women, and with the exception of Gail Kim, who my biggest problem with her has always been, she's BCW by the way. She believes her own hype. That's always, she's the CM Punk of women before there was a CM Punk, right? So, but here's my problem with it, and this is where the sexism comes in. And they did it on purpose. I know they did it on purpose. Now you just told me Russo was still there. It's got to be his idea. If you took the roster of WWE women at that same time, 08, 09, whatever year that was, 08, and you compared them, I think the biggest difference, and even today, because I could say the same thing about AEW, the women in the WWF, while yes, still attractive, WWE, they are athletic. They look like they did sports at some point in their life, whether it was Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, because I got news for you, fat couch potatoes, that's athletic, all right? You ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. Me and you might do it. You know what I mean? I'm saying the women that do that, there's a reason their thighs are like tree trunks, because it takes strength, agility, it takes athleticism. So even like a Tori Wilson, I'm not saying they didn't have women like a Kelly that were Barbie doll thin, but when I look at them Impact women, almost to a man, no pun intended, to a woman, they look like they went to the local strip club and just grabbed whatever strippers they could to come get in the ring. They didn't look athletic. Some of them wrestled okay, I'm not saying, but the most realistic of all of them for me is ODB. ODB was realistic. I think the beautiful people got better as they went along, but they looked like a couple strippers out there until they got a little better. Obviously, Victoria, she came up wanting to be a wrestler. Awesome Kong looked legit. That girl that wore, but by the way, I know that's another match, but Awesome Kong and that whatever the fuck, the Syrian Nightmare from Glow, it came off as Glow to me. That whole match came off as Glow to me. Mickie James is good, but she also was WWE first. My point is, they all dressed like they were at the bar. That was my biggest problem with they made no attempt to hide that they were putting on a, no pun intended, TNA show when they put them girls out there. Whereas Lita didn't dress like that. She might have had a thong sticking out of the back of her corduroy pants, but most of them girls in WWE had gear, and they looked like they were in a spot. When Gail Kim came out in her outfit, I thought, what the fuck? She was the one person I thought was going to save it for me and come out in gear, and she literally came out in the dress, the little tiny two-piece, whatever the hell, baby camisole that the chicks in Miami wear trying to pick up athletes when I was down in Miami last year.
That was gear.
That ain't gear.
What do you mean?
It's what she would have worn to the
to each his own, but that was gear.
Missing were high heels, dude. That's what those chicks wear at the club, trying to get taken home by some dude with money. Okay. And that was my biggest problem with it. And so that Roxy chick, whatever, she's still alive? She's not the one that died, right? That was Daphne that died?
Daphne passed away.
So Roxy, to me, she looked the most, no offense, Roxy, she looked the most corner store stripper of all of them, but
she didn't dress in that two-piece that you're talking about or complaining about.
Like fucking another Glow wrestler, like fucking I Dream of Jeannie. But she at least looked like she took a wrestling school course, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I appreciate the ones that went out there and actually worked, but a lot of them were strictly eye candy. And to quote Taz last week, there's a bunch of them just like that on 42nd Street. They weren't anything to write home about.
I get you with Raka Khan. She couldn't wrestle for a lick. You're right about the beautiful people. They improved as the years went on. Right. Christy Hemme sucked. WWE or here, she can't wrestle a lick. Jacqueline is, she's a Hall of Famer, so she doesn't count.
Was she in that match?
No, she was in the match.
But she didn't make it in the cage. Right. I've never had anything bad to say about Jacqueline. Jacqueline used to wrestle Jarrett.
I'm just giving the names out that you're right. Selena's was eye candy. Tracy Brooks was eye candy. So there was few and far between of women that can wrestle. But again, the platform was starting TW for TNA. I'm not trying to be a shill for them. I'm just trying to be, objective as I always am.
And
they're starting the revolution.
Proof in the pudding is there's 2 different women's matches here. At that point, there was only one WWE match. It would either be a girls' battle royal or it would be a world title match. But you're right. I wouldn't argue that they gave them the platform, but I'm saying those women aren't the pioneers that everyone wants to make them out to be. And current Impact Wrestling women are better than those.
Right now, yeah. Like I said, in the beginning stages of the quote-unquote revolution of TNA's Knockouts division, Reflection Nights, I'm being real here, they couldn't handle the cage. Again, it took a couple of years. What?
Is that porn?
Yes, it is. It's a porn parody.
I couldn't tell that was Shawn Michaels dressing up like Cena.
Okay, I will, again, for the Reflection Nights that are on the audio, TW is showing a post that I did for the PW Hustle Facebook fan page, the Hustle Phantom. So get on that. But it's a porn parody starring Johnny Sins and Kendra Lust. Raw is XXX, but neither here nor there. But we already combined two of the ladies matches, TW. So I want to at least give credence to somebody I don't like, I still don't like, I'll never like, and that is Erica. You wanted to say that EY did his thing. Again, I will give you the credence, Eric Young, that there is a place for you in wrestling. You are valuable in your comedy, in your depth of character. I will give you that, TW. I'm not gonna deny that. But as a fan, I just don't like him. I don't like a man who's doing comedy and then you want me to take him seriously as the years wane on as a main eventer. You're not a main eventer. You're a comedy guy. That's where you are. No matter what. There's a ceiling for you. You can never be the guy that draws money. So that's my problem with Eric Young. But for this match purposes, the 6-team cuffed in the cage match, which is ridiculous. I'm not even going to name the names for these tag teams, but LAX was there. Kaz and Eric Young was there. But then for the comedy purposes of Eric Young, we don't have to talk about who was in the match, TW. Eric Young, storyline-wise, at this point in time, was afraid of the TNA roster. But he had an alter ego. So to combat his fear, he created the Super Eric character. He had a cape. He was the strongest man in TNA wrestling. And it proved this point here. He proved valuable for Kaz because Kaz and Super Eric won the match because he went to the back being afraid, came back out with his mask on and the cape. Again, comedy. I get you, TW. It's comedy. It serves its purpose. I laughed. I can giggle, but I can't take him seriously years later as being the Impact Heavyweight Champion. That's just me. I'll never like him. A-Track Brown and me will always debate about this. I don't like Eric Young. I don't like him in Sanity. I don't care about him when he came back to Impact Wrestling and he did the
Sanity,
the Violent by Design shit. I don't give a shit.
Sanity and Impact, yeah.
He did Impact Sanity. But again, I just don't like him. I don't take him seriously. So I give him props for what he does comedy-wise.
You'll never like Nick Cross. You'll never like Eugene, Nick Dinsmore. You'll never like.
I like Nick Dinsmore. I like what he brings, the value he brought as a comedy wrestler with the Eugene character. Nikki Cross, I actually like her character development.
You're saying you like him because he never did go on to world titles,
right? You have a ceiling.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you. So Eric if he's not an Impact original, he's damn close, right? He's also a BCW guy. He's a Toronto guy. He's a D'Amore guy. This guy is one of those guys. He's really AJ Styles. After AJ Styles leaves, he finally gets the call that AJ got, that Bobby Roode got. Like, Eric just had to wait his turn out. That EY super gimmick was, he made lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons, man. He took it, and that's the reason he inevitably got elevated, right? It made the fans care about him. Maybe not you and I, and that you're not alone in knocking that. Most people hated it, right? But once he got rid of it, and the best way to get rid of it is to totally shit on it and become a super heel, no pun intended, which I don't even know if that's what they did.
They did years later.
Yeah, he turned on. But if he doesn't do that, I don't know if we ever get the other versions of Eric Young. So I think it was the brass ring. He grabbed it and then he turned it into something better down the road. I think it helped him. That's when he started changing his look. Because remember, he did that other comedy with the chick.
ODB.
He did all that comedy with her, and that stuff made me feel like he was being held back. And trust me, when he became Super EY, I'm like, fuck. I hated it then. But in hindsight, if he doesn't do well with that, he doesn't get another chance to do well with other things.
Again, I'm saying I respect the value that he brings to the organization because he'll do what needs to be done. I just don't like people trying to convince me that he can, change his character, be a superhero, like you said, and make me believe that he could draw money and be the main eventer. He's not. There's a ceiling to the professor. I'm sorry. Right. I just don't think I think he's mid-card and even below that, but he serves his purpose in that tier. That's just me.
NXT main event talent. I never saw it happening on Raw or SmackDown. I didn't see it failing as bad as it did. But I could see him being higher up the card because size has something to do with it too. He ain't the biggest dude, right? I can see him being over in AEW. Impact, I think that's a big difference between Impact and AEW. Is Impact AEW is more like NXT to me than Impact, even though a lot of people think they're all kind of the same. Impact still would bring in giants like the dude that stuttered. What was that guy's name?
Oh, Matt Morgan.
They always had guys like that who would always keep the little dudes down. Lance Archer, they were trying to push that dude as a monster, So you still had that big man's mentality in Impact, whereas I don't think they have that in AEW. And anybody that's big, like a Wardlow or Bill Morrissey, they hide them. They have them distracted somewhere else, so the main event is still someone Adam Cole size versus MJF size, so that it doesn't. You know what I mean? So Eric Young in NXT, he could overcome the shortcomings, pun intended, but still, to me, I bought him. I bought him with Sanity. The rest of that Sanity group was misfits, dude. But together, you feared them, right? Yeah, I think they were in a War Games. Were they in a War Games?
They were.
The 3-team War Games?
Again, you're talking to the professor that I don't really care about EY. I didn't care about Sanity. I've been consistent. I didn't pop for Sanity with EY there. I didn't pop for EY when he came back and brought Sanity gimmick to TNA wrestling in 2020. So that's just me. But again, I don't mind the comedy, but I know his place. And he was the reason that him and Kaz won this 16 cuffed in the cage match. Everybody was cuffed. LAX was cuffed. The Motor City Machine Guns were in this match. They were cuffed. Petey Williams and Scott Steiner, they were cuffed. The Rock and Rave Infection, they were cuffed. Dustin Rhodes and Relic, they were cuffed. And Kaz was cuffed. So Super Eric was the MVP of this match. So TW, let's go on and talk about the main events because that's what got the most time. That's what people paid their hard-earned money to see. And of course, I just want to say this logistically, TW, to this day, this is the highest buy-rated pay-per-view in Impact Wrestling / TNA Wrestling history. 55,000 buys, which is probably nothing to anybody, but for TNA purposes, that was a lot for them, and still hasn't been matched. So I don't know if you knew that, TWs, that no other pay-per-view has matched what 2008 Lockdown did for themselves. But anyway, Lethal Lockdown, the TNA version of War Games. You had Team Cage, consisting of Christian Cage, Kevin Nash, Matt Morgan, Rhino, and Sting against Team Tonko with himself, AJ Styles, James Storm, and Team 3D, Devon and Brother Ray. So TW, with this, I just want to say one thing about this. This is a great example of, if you don't make it in one organization, thank God for another organization. And I just forgot about, at least Tonko probably is one-dimensional because of his size, one-dimensional because of his look with the tattoos and all that stuff. But in TNA, and he's dead. I know you're going to tell me that. I got you.
Dead, is he?
Yes, he is. He died. Overdose. He died of drugs a couple of years after. But, because I know you're the gatekeeper of all the people that are dead. But anyway.
Rave.
What?
Jimmy Rave. I didn't bring him up.
Oh, okay, but anyway, neither here nor there. But at least I want to give credence to Tonko here because this is a great example of getting a platform and getting a chance. Again, one-dimensional, but he has the look, he has the presence, and he was given a little bit of mic time. I ain't saying he's Ric Flair with the
motherfucker.
What?
Travis Tronco is alive and he's 46 years old.
Oh, okay. I thought he died of an overdose. Oh no, he was arrested. He has arrest records.
Arrested.
So okay. I apologize to Tom Cole if he's
You know what? He looks like the one dude that was with Piper, but with hair. Sean O'Hare. No pun intended.
Oh,
he's the one that OD'd and died. They look alike.
Oh, okay. So again, my mistake, Tom Cole. I apologize if you are listening to this podcast. Yeah, right. But anyway, TW, again, this is a great example of getting a chance in another organization. And Tom Cole, took advantage of that chance. He was former TNA tag team champion with AJ Styles. And again, he's given a platform to be, in a double main event situation. So let's say about, again, your favorite concept, the War Games, with the twist, because when all 10 combatants come down the cage, roof comes down, and weapons galore, and it's lethal lockdown, all, chairs, kendo sticks. Oh my, you use what you got. What say you, TW?
I like the swerve where Christian's in the ring and Tonko's coming out and AJ ended up sneaking in the ring and he was actually the first guy with Christian. I absolutely love the lazy ass way James Storm climbs up to the top of the platform with the weapons. Did you see it?
Yeah.
He threw his feet up there first and then dragged his fat ass up there. I love
he's not that the only one that was going to be athletic. You knew the MVP of the cage is AJ Styles because he's the athletic one.
I love the spot AJ and Christian did with the ladder through the table with was it Tomko that shook it?
No, it was James Storm that shook it.
James Storm. I liked it. I thought it. And it's funny you said it. You called it War Games in the beginning because I'm like, you had another version of War Games. I was going to ask you, did they ever have another handcuff tag team match? Because that was the first ever one. I'm going to assume no.
No.
And B, did they ever have another one of these? Because I actually enjoyed it.
Legal Lockdown. That's their coup de grace. That's their
War Games.
Their War Games. Always.
Yeah, I wish I'd have paid more attention to it because I would have watched this the way I watched War Games. I think I still like War Games better because it's 2 rings and it's not that dumbass 6-sided one. But I like what they did with it. And unlike Blood and Guts, which is almost, I'm assuming it's the same size as War Games, but it looked like it was way bigger, probably because I was there instead of watching it on TV. There's too many places for guys to just lay around and do nothing, and they did that at Blood and Guts. I'm sure they do it at War Games too. This ring, there's nowhere to hide. You're involved or you're selling, one of the two, right?
So what do you think they did? Did they take their arrest or they just sold in your eyes?
Blood and Guts.
No, not Blood. I'm talking about Lockdown. Here, the match here.
For one, James Storm, he climbed his fat ass up there and just laid there for a minute to get his air. Probably blew up climbing the damn cage the way he did because he went up feet first. Weird. It was so weird how he did it. And I thought this dude falls, he's dying, and he's killing somebody on the way when he lands. But yeah, I do like the match. It's much obviously smaller in scale than War Games, but it doesn't come off as a War Games ripoff for that reason. And the reason I ask these questions, because like I said earlier, I didn't really follow TNA. I kept up, if you will, but I didn't follow it. I always thought it was individuals. I didn't know it was teams. I thought Legal Lockdown was 5 guys fighting and they all could get weapons. I didn't know it was teams. So this is my first Lethal Lockdown match that I ever watched. But I enjoyed it. And I can't see Sting and not get pissed off that he didn't stay with WWE. Fuck. Which, granted, they weren't going to let him wrestle, so what are you going to do? But it's just, I hate seeing Sting wrestle in TNA, knowing he could have done so much more in WWE than he did. But
Dixie played Sting enough so he didn't have to do a lot. He did his appearances, he did his matches, he gave his body, and he didn't have to work 200 or 300 days out of the year.
Plus, he was afraid they were going to job him out. I've read that times, but I don't think. I think they would have printed money with Sting because they would have had their final replacement to the Ultimate Warrior, Undertaker.
Remember, Vince is vindictive, and Vince is an egomaniacal person.
Flair. So he didn't do that to Flair. He didn't do that to Tully and Arn.
No, because
He
Flair,
didn't Lex.
when Flair made his overture, he wanted to go. Again, I'm not defending anything. I'm just like Sting felt reservations on certain things. So it is what it is.
And
you got to respect it.
What Sting had was jealous motherfuckers who WWE had no interest in, telling him not to do it because they're going to burn you. Yet, if you look at the history of it, did they burn Booker T? Did they burn Lex? Did they burn the NWA?
Well, again, Booker T got hazed a little bit. Again, people talk about his match with Triple H at WrestleMania and all that bullshit.
But I'm saying Booker T had a damn good WWE career.
Yeah, but Booker T also left on bad terms because of the drug issue. That's why he came to TNA here. He was in this lockdown pay-per-view. So, you know.
I know that, but I'm saying back when Sting went there,
mm-hmm.
he could have gone there just like Booker T did. Why didn't he use Booker T as an example of someone that didn't get burned for being a WCW guy? I didn't know Booker T left on bad terms. What happened there?
I think somebody it was a drug test issue. And I think
steroids or weed
could have been. I don't know which one, but he probably did not want to do the rehab thing and just quit. Went to TNA,
right?
So he probably felt like you're slighting me. You're thinking I'm this and that. I'm not gonna go to rehab. I'm not addicted to something. So he felt some type of way. So I forgot the logistics of that. So one more thing about the War Games match here, TW. Again. The difference is they have the roof with the weapons, TW. So, now you could talk about blood and guts. You could talk about like the War Games from the NXT and even, the War Games that happened in Survivor Series. They put that there. They make it stupid enough that you go out before you come into the ring, you're bringing the tables. You're bringing the chairs. It's idiotic. At least with Lethal Lockdown, TW, for me, my purpose, it's on the roof. I'm fine with that. I'm fine that it's on the cage itself. So it just insulting people's intelligence that you're trying to get these tables and chairs now in 2020 dress. I feel you're insulting me because if I'm on the other side and you're trying to get the tables, I'm fighting you not to get the tables. I'm trying to play defense. Right. At least for Lethal Lockdown, it's fucking there. So this way you can play defense and you're both trying to get get the prop. What say you, TW, about that? I think that's what makes it better than War Games and Blood and Guts now.
Yeah. And you got to work for it. You got to get up there. Yeah. The same logic could be that the people that didn't want no part of that shit stayed down there, and they did. Them big dudes didn't climb up there. I mean, James Storm's not small, but the other dudes didn't climb up there, and so you almost end up having two different matches. The guys with the gimmicks,
but it's available and visible. Yes. It's not like you have to
I liked it a lot. I would watch it again. Other matches. I don't want to watch the same damn one over and over again, but I literally thought all these years that the Lethal Lockdown was one-on-one. I didn't know it was teams. I had no idea it was War Games like.
You're confusing the 6-man escape thing with Lethal Lockdown.
Don't even know what that is.
You just saw it. It was the beginning of this pay-per-view, the 6-man escape.
Oh, that damn thing. Yeah,
that's what you're confusing. That's one-on-one.
With the weapons. I thought the weapons came down, and I thought it was like Elimination Chamber, where 2 guys start, then a 3rd guy comes in, then a 4th guy, then a 5th guy, then the weapons dropped. I didn't know it was 5 guys on each side.
Right. Or 8, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. But neither here nor there, reflection. But again, Lethal Lockdown does have more positives than the War Games and Blood and Guts today, in my humble opinion. So let's close this out, TW, and talk about the main event, what people came to see. Samoa Joe putting his career on the line because he was chasing destiny. He wanted to become the TNA heavyweight champion of the world, and he had to challenge. He had to get Kurt Angle to agree to this. And Kurt Angle, being the manipulative man, the cerebral man, forced Samoa Joe to put his career on the line. And, of course, this is the main event for this pay-per-view. You talked about Frank Trigg, who was kind of like playing kayfabe, in a sense, being in the commentary role, if you will, Reflectionites. He was cheering more for Kurt Angle, and he felt that Kurt Angle, with his experience in the ring, his wrestling experience, his wrestling expertise, main eventing pay-per-views across the world, TW. It was a no-brainer to say Kurt Angle was going to win. Samoa Joe had a lot to lose. Or you could say he had nothing to lose because he just put his career on the line because he wanted that heavyweight title. But, TW, the backstory is this feud was going on since 2006. From November of 2006, and we're going to April of 2008. This is a year and change feud between these guys. This is, we could talk about greatest rivalries. We could do a pro wrestling spotlight. I'm sorry?
Match number 5 between them.
I forget the count, but yeah, we probably this was match number 5, but by the time we get to TNA Lockdown 2008. So what say you, TW, about, the semantics here, the ambiance of Frank Trigg. And, of course, again, Samoa Joe putting his career on the line. And, the presentation of Kurt Angle, because he took this was UFC. This was he felt like Dana White booked this match to get into this situation. And he looked like a UFC fighter. He had no boots on. He had no knee pads. He taped
never
his
wrestled
feet.
barefoot again. He almost died 7 times wrestling barefoot, dude.
So what say you about the appearance and the ambiance of this main event here?
So long time ago, especially around then, I had no love for Samoa Slow. What won me over with him was when he got released and then came back and then ended up doing the NXT stuff and he got hurt again. He's one of the few guys I will not fault for going to AEW. What else was he supposed to do? He tried not to the first time. He came back, and then McMahon screwed him, and he did it again. I like how AEW uses him and all that. But back here, not a fan. Not a fan, but I thought he did great in this match. And one thing I didn't like about this match was it's a hard sell for me when you're telling me a guy's dream is to be the TNA heavyweight champion, when no, it's not. No, his dream is so you got elements of the Shawn Michaels boyhood dream here. He does very, very little of that Shawn Michaels shit at the finish, which you can tell he's probably uncomfortable doing because it doesn't really fit his gimmick. What's the chant for Joe? Joe's gonna kill you, right? That's his whole deal. So you did not like the attempt to humanize the killer Samoa Joe, right? And maybe if I watched the whole build up, week to week, maybe I feel differently. But I thought Kurt looked like $1,000,000, man. Like he looked to be in the best shape of his life. He's another guy where I wish he would have never left WWE. He's actually stated that recently that he thinks of all the stuff he could have done if he stayed. My problem with him leaving isn't necessarily him leaving. I get it. What more could you have done there? But that's not why he left. He left because of drugs. And the fact that they fired him so he'd get help because he wouldn't listen to him. And his wasn't a Booker T situation. This dude was on the brink of killing himself with painkillers.
He was on the brink, but also there was a little bit of an ego because he felt like ECW was a demotion. And again, I could say,
Right. But I'm saying, for this dude to get fired so that he would go to rehab and instead goes there and signs the biggest contract they ever handed out, it bothered me because I every week I waited to find out this dude died. He got Brian Pillman. They show up at the show and we found Kurt Angle in his hotel room. I thought that call was coming, right? And so hindsight, it worked out. And hindsight, I'm glad he went there because if Kurt's not there, I don't know that Impact's still around today. I don't know that AJ's the star he is. I don't know that Samoa Joe's the star he is. I don't know that James Storm, I think, could have been way bigger star. But, for whatever reason.
Kurt Angle, wrestled James Storm. He wrestled Bobby Roode. He wrestled AJ. He wrestled
elevated those guys. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing that he went there. And it's not like he went there. It's not Bret Hart and WCW, right? We would all agree if we could undo that, we would. But he went there and had an awesome, 8 years?
He went there to have bangers, but he knew at least he was given the brass ring. He was given the torch to carry a company on his back, and he took that. He took that responsibility, whether he was high or not. TW, that's neither here nor there. But he took it seriously when he was sober.
It was about not being in pain, dude. And the reason you end up taking more and more because when
you take Adderall, when you take all those painkillers, you are high. So you're high on trying to not feel the numbing pain. Yeah,
his motive was to not hurt.
Yeah, but again, and another good thing about going to TNA was, even though right now at 50-something years old, his body is brittled because of the pain, but TNA's softer schedule and not working so much really helped, again, like you would say, keep him alive, if you will, because he didn't fight 200, 300 times a year. He probably fought half of that, maybe 150, so give or take. So anything in the match that caught your eye or with the presentation? Like you said, it was kind of UFC style because it was more submission based. It was more, I want to say, amateur wrestling based, because Kurt Angle wanted to prove he was the greatest wrestler in the world for a reason.
There was a point in the beginning where I thought they're shooting. Like they're really like, hey, let's go out there and just shoot, and then we'll work the other stuff in later. They did some, I think you'd appreciate it, but maybe even you don't even catch. They did so many awesome nuances where, like, the reversals, like, they're so sudden that you don't realize it's a reversal. It just looks like Kurt did a move, right? Like,
okay,
the way he did the single leg before he put him in the first, the figure four. He put him in the figure four for that. I didn't like it almost looked like Samoa Joe channeled Hulk Hogan a couple times, where he's just dead in the water, and then he's like, fuck it, rolls over his back and then kicks him off like it was the easiest thing he did in the whole match. I didn't like that, but I get it. It was selling an adrenaline surge. Like, oh, I could just flip to my back. But my favorite spot, one of the coolest finishes of all times, is Michaels Austin WrestleMania, where they fucking reverse the stunner super kick so many times your head's spinning by the time they do hit one, and you're like, wow, like it just went smooth, perfect. I'll bet you if I go back and watch it, it ain't as perfect and smooth as I thought it was live, but those, and I think ever since Sean Austin Mania 14, was that 14? Ever since that match, I feel like people do it too much, where they're trading off, blocking each other's finish. I love that Kurt turned the Muscle Buster into a sunset flip into an ankle lock. It was so well done, because in the Muscle Buster, there's no part of the person watching that thinks, oh, this is going to turn into an ankle lock. There's no way in hell you think that's happening, right? So the way he twisted, did the sunset flip, didn't go for the pin, and just rolled him over. And I like that they kept going back to it. I like that Trigg sold him grabbing the ropes. You can't do that in UFC, but if UFC, they don't have ropes. So it almost, by Trigg acknowledging he grabbed the ropes to break the hold, it's still UFC style, because you can't do that in UFC because there's no ropes. Grabbing the fence to stop the thing, but they didn't grab the fence, they grabbed the ropes. So I think they did a good job of making it look shoot, but not. The best part of them is the thing I critiqued in the beginning. The best part of it, because when you just do a straight fake shoot, it's boring. They did enough off the ropes, but not whipping each other off the rope. I like that Kurt, when the figure four got reversed, he let it go and went to a headlock. That's a UFC thing, where you're trying an ankle pick and you can't get it, and you switch to an arm bar. So I like that. I think they did a lot of stuff that made it look like a shoot. And then, but also, when you get a back elbow off a fucking return from the rope, the fakest thing in wrestling is getting whipped to the rope and coming back. Like, why would you do it? Right? So,
well, at the end of the day, Reflectionites, the boyhood dream came true for Samoa Joe as he became the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. So, TW, let's put this in a bow about TNA Lockdown 2008. If we're gonna, we haven't graded something in a long time, especially we haven't done pay-per-views in a while. So, for the purposes of why we did it and the motivation why I did this episode, the tribute to Don West with his commentary, the tribute, with this gimmick pay-per-view. So I'm gonna give it for the circumstances that we did this. I'm gonna give this a B+. Don West, gimmick pay-per-views. Of course, not every match was, a banger. There was some bad matches. The women's match, you had the Outlaws fighting each other. I didn't really care for. I stayed tried and true to the matches I was interested in, and we gave it, we gave the credence that to the ones we were talking about, especially the double main event. And of course, War Games kind of saves it for me. So I give it a B+. What say you, TW, and put a bow in it?
I am going to raise your B+, and I'm going to give it just a regular A for TNA. And the reason is there's not a bad match for me. They're all okay. Some better than others. There's bad concepts. But the two that I had the biggest problem with were that climbing into the cage to have a singles match and the tag team match where people got handcuffed. But I liked the actual tag team match. Like, I liked what they did. And look, I'm not big on that super EY shit either, right? But because it's comedy, when he got handcuffed, I straight up thought the match was over. And when he walked out and it was Pitbull number 3, Saturn came to the damn cage, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, the camera was on him the whole time, and I didn't figure out that they were handcuffed in the wrong hand. That's well done. And then Dustin Rhodes, by the way, how do we not bring this up? Absolutely. If you want to feel good about Dustin Rhodes, watch this match. Know that it is 15 years ago. And then look at Dustin today. Thank God Dustin came back from whatever dark place that dude was in, because when EY picked him up to do his little finish or take him to the rope, whatever, that had to be the biggest Dustin's ever been, dude. He didn't even tuck his shirt. Remember the Goldust was like a whatever. He was fat and he was high. He was on his painkillers. And he just looked. He had a very Kerry Von Erich look in his face. Like, he was there physically, but he was not there mentally. And so kudos
he was phoning
to Dustin.
It in. Yeah,
he come back in. Because that looked like end of days time for Dustin there. Like, he just looked terrible. And I don't mean terrible wrestling. I meant like bad shape. Like
right.
So
you didn't wish for him to be that. Yeah, we don't wish for him.
Yeah, and so to see that made me so grateful. And then the women, again, I remember Roxy LeBeau or whatever.
LeBeau.
And I know there was a time when they were trying to push Angelina Love, who I think Velvet was always better than her. But their match wasn't terrible. The Awesome Kong match that we didn't talk about, even though it's reeked of Glow wrestling, that chick that dressed like the Syrian Nightmare on Glow,
Raisha Saeed.
The only thing I can think is she was somebody under there that couldn't wrestle on TV yet, because it made no sense for her to wrestle in a full-on fucking nurse outfit with a damn ski jacket and a hood. But she did stuff like she was a trained wrestler. So I can't remember who they wrestled.
Gail Kim and ODB.
Oh yeah, Gail Kim and ODB.
Jesus
Gail
Christ.
Kim in a club outfit. But no, I think, again, man, this opened my eyes to the fact that I could watch a wrestling show where every match was a cage match. I thought for sure I'd be bored to sleep, but they made every one just enough different. I mean, they were all different. Every single match was different. You had an escape match. You had to fucking escape into the match to have a match. You had a handcut to the cage match. You had a regular tag match. You had the weapons everywhere, and then you had a UFC style match. So they did an awesome, awesome job. And I actually, I never ever was going to tell you it was only $242, by the way. I hated that commercials it almost made me pay for TNA on YouTube, because the commercials kept coming on every so often in places they shouldn't have, like not after a match, in the middle of it. And
I can't stop that, so I can only give you what I could.
If I had, my hand on the trigger, I could skip it after 5 seconds, and most of the time I did. And it's not so much the problem of seeing a commercial, it's they show the same damn ones over and over again. It's like, all right, you just taught me how to ever buy your shit, because you just overdid it. But I like it. It's that watching this made me realize that I never really badmouth, TNA. I just didn't like what they did in 2010, and that's when I just stopped paying attention. In the beginning, like you, I was all for it. I'm like, all right. Plus, I had friends there, and I had
in essence,
and delusions of being part of the Canadian group. Because by the way, I had my own CIA, Canadian Imperial Alliance. We did all that stuff here in Michigan before they did it. We didn't do it like they did. They did a Team Canada thing like hockey. I'm not saying they stole our gimmick, but they did a Canadian theme. But I always pulled for him until 2010. Had no idea Russo was there that early. But it made me not even wish that I paid more attention to Impact. It made me realize that I did. Right? It made me realize that there was no one in there that I did.
But TW.
I don't like. Yeah.
You agree with me that this pay-per-view is an example that they peaked at that time.
It's all good stuff, man. It's absolutely and the one thing I was going to bring up too is the crowd. You stunned me when you said it was only 5,500 people. That's one of the hardest parts for me watching Impact now is that they're wrestling in the fucking TV studio in my high school, right? Like, it's so small that it's like, if the crowd's into it, it's not so hard, but it's hard to see that. And when I saw that audience, dude, I absolutely, and I know some days it is, but not always. When you say 5,500, the crowd for this show looked bigger than Dynamite. It looked way bigger than a Dynamite, or especially Rampage. Well, Rampage and Dynamite usually at the same place, but so you telling me it's 5,500? It's like, whoa! Like, they must have had the fisheye lens to make it look bigger than it was. But they were awesome. The crowd was awesome. On top of it, another thing about Don West, I like how he was out there with the people asking who's gonna win, who's gonna win, and then TNA did it. I like the interacting with the fans. This you peaked, yeah. So for sure, and it's no shot. But like I said, are there periods of Impact that I don't like? I wasn't a big fan of the main event Mafia. A lot of times when I turned it on and I saw Sting being Joker Sting, didn't like that stuff.
That's later on, but neither here nor there. TW. I get you.
Ran out of ideas, but it's also they ran out of people because people were leaving by the pound. And Russo, Bischoff, you got the carousel of doom that thank WCW when you started bringing in more writers and stuff like that.
Well, we talk so much. You give it an A, I gave it a B+. And with that being said, we close on this episodic episode number 163, Ray. 163. TNA presents Lockdown 2008 from Lowell, Massachusetts. So, TW, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
So we're not doing the first one, right? Hey,
Absolutely not.
This guy right here. This is a Chase in the blue Impact Hall of Fame, right there. But you ready for this? I don't think you're ready for this. You're not ready for this, Jelly.
Oh, you got the Dingo Warrior.
Dingo. Anyway, so we got the Hameen Media Group at podbean.com or the HME channelattitude.com. Our show is at PW Reflection. Travis, I brought you up. I'm going to get your thing out there again at Nuts and Volts PW. Obviously, Big Ray can't do without the James Brown of podcasting. At Big Ray Hernandez, that's his Twitter, that's his Instagram, that's his Snapchat, that's his TikTok, that's his Grindr, that's his Ashley, what's it called? Ashley May?
Ashley Madison.
Ashley Madison. Also, the brother site, Billy Madison. It's that one, too. We can't do any of this without him. He's always apologizing to us, and it's like, man, I just want to call him one day. It's been a while since him and I had a phone call, but I just want to call him one day and say, dude, like, as I'm listening to our show today, and he puts the clip.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle, Reflection Nights.
Yes. There's one thing that's going to put me to sleep easier than listening to a podcast on my work van driving an hour and listening to myself on an hour drive. So, but Ray said something about you and I were hilarious. So I wanted to listen to it back to see if we were. I think he's crazy, but thanks for the compliment. I mean, we're funny. Don't get me wrong. But anyways, when I was listening to it and him putting them clips in there, if I'm not mistaken, he took the clip that I watched on the Peacock because it was the fake War Machine when Taz came to the ring. So he's taking this effort to snip and take stuff and produce our stuff. So I hope Ray, how much we both appreciate you, and we might only have 14 people listening to us, but we'd have 0 if it wasn't for Ray putting the production behind it, the intros, the music, the posting it for us, all of it. And so I hope Ray understands that we absolutely appreciate it. So then you got bigvitobrand.wixsite.com. last week. We featured him on the show. Patreon.com/The Big Vito Brand, where you can help him and Noel out and watch their stuff. And then mine, at TommyWonder19, is Twitter and Instagram. Snapchat's Number Wonder. Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder. And then TikTok and my other Twitter is at the Tommy Wonder for those. And then Dum doing an idiot. I'm just going to stop promising videos because apparently they're never coming. Watch our greatest hits. Watch our archives.
Okay, at least you're honest there. So in terms of being funny, I have to at least give a shout out to Donna Destruction because he slid into DMs. You know, Donna Destruction popped. Do you remember where he popped? In this, you didn't listen to this show, but remember I said when you was opening the goddamn fucking the rapper back then, and I said, damn, you're disturbing Donna Destruction's workout. And you said, don't disturb his groove. Donna Destruction popped for that scenario of what we were talking about when you was opening it, infuriating the professor, and you saying, don't disturb Don's groove. So, I just wanted to give a props to Donna Destruction. You say we're not funny, but again, you say we are funny, but again, you don't know where we're funny.
He sent me a message today. I'm going to read it because I don't want to bastardize it. He said, it is so cool to hear all the wrestlers you wrestled. And I said, thanks, brother. I wish I'd done more with it, but I enjoyed my ride for sure. So for him to send me that message out of nowhere, that was pretty awesome. I appreciate Don. Don and I go back to the Puck podcast. We both listen to that. He's a Colorado Avalanche fan, so we should be enemies by birthright. And the Avalanche was it the Avalanche that smoked the wings on Martin Luther King Day? I think it was. But we should be enemies. But our love of hockey turned into also our love of wrestling. So I absolutely appreciate Don, the Don of Destruction.
Absolutely. Don of Destruction, a reflectionite for life. And you can find me on my Twitter at PWSOPRF. That's PWSOPROF. And if this gets uploaded by A-Track Brown, this will be on the PWSO networks on the YouTubes. Follow my brothers in arms, Billy Ray Valentine at Obi-Wan Inoue, and the king of the reaction, 8-Track Brown at the number 8, TRAC Brown. What are we going to do next time, Reflectionites? I don't know.
I want to do one.
What do you want to do?
Because we're always doing your favorite. I don't know if we've ever even done one of my favorite.
I gave you shows. I gave you props of shows, too. I did once or twice.
You've done my favorite matches. I don't think we've ever done a 1-hour UWF show.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
No, we might have done Mid-South. We didn't do no damn UWF.
We did UWF.
We should do the one where it was leading up to Duggan versus One Man Gang in the Loser Leaves Town cage match for the world title.
Is it on the cock?
There's no UWF on the cock. They only have Mid-South.
Again, the hard part is trying to find this stuff.
We can find UWF. Dude, you find some of the most fucking brutal footage of everything on YouTube. Let me look. Let me type in.
If you can find it.
UWF Power Hour? What the hell was it called?
Probably UWF Pro Wrestling. But anyway, we'll keep you on your toes, Reflectionites. We'll keep you on your toes. We might do a UWF show. We might do another episodic. We might do going to the movies. We might do a spotlight. We might do greatest rivalries. We might do a what if. So we'll keep you on your toes, Reflectionites. We'll keep you on your toes. And with that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, Dr. Freakenstein himself. Tommy Wonder saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the PWR podcast at the PWSO networks at podbean.com. So say peace, TW, and then we'll talk about this off the air. Peace.
Love recycle.
Oh, all right, and always
love recycle.
Go electric stoves.
Listen, we gotta watch it.